Today we are learning the wrap stitch. This is its own stitch, but it is also part one of the blanket stitch, which is what you are going to need to know to be able to do for your cloud. So the blanket stitch can be really tricky for some people, so I like to teach the wrap stitch as its own thing. And then tomorrow I'll teach you the extra step you need to do in order to make a blanket stitch. You are going to be getting a piece of fabric like you have in the other days. I am using some felt because this is easier to see on camera. I'm also using embroidery floss and a larger needle, again, because these all show up better on camera. So, first thing I want to show you is you'll just be folding your fabric in half. And as I have told you in the past, we are going to be, I'm teaching you how to hide the knot in your thread so that you don't see it. Because I've told you guys, you don't have to have a really pretty knot. It's okay if it's not pretty, as long as it's a knot and it works, that's what matters. So today is a day where you're gonna learn how to hide that knot. So you can kind of watch as I'm doing this. If you are right-handed, you are going to hold your fabric folded in half in your left hand with the fold going towards your hand and the opening towards your right hand. Okay, so the opening is going towards your dominant hand, the hand that you write with. Then what you're going to do is you are going to poke your needle in your fabric, kind of in the corner-ish at the fold, but away from you, towards the back. You have to open them up so that when you pull this all the way through, this is where your knot is. Then I can fold this back up. And what I suggest you do is always bring all your excess thread in front of your work so that you can see it. And then all we do is we poke through both layers now, and we slowly go through and we make it snug. Remember, if we pull too tight, it's going to bunch up. So we need to make sure that it's not too tight. It's just nice and snug to hold these two together. A really good person at hand sewing is going to make sure that their stitches are all the same length, so from the edge of their fabric in, and they're all the same width, the same distance apart. I'm actually not really great at that. I try, but I'm not great. So again, I'm gonna bring my thread in front. I just kind of eyeball it, and then I like to poke my needle about halfway through or so, making sure that I did all the steps correctly before pulling my needle through and making it snug. Bring my thread in front, poke my needle through. And if I don't like where my needle is, because this is where your stitch is going to end up, then you can just take your needle out and reposition it where you'd like it to go. So just poke it through. Just like that. What you'll be doing is going all the way around all three edges. I get lots of questions about how to turn corners. Okay, I'm not really worried about how to turn a corner because on your cloud, you're not going to have any hard right angles like this. You will be getting, your cloud has curved edges, so you're gonna turn corners and not really notice it even, okay? So it won't be that, that big of a deal. But I will show you kind of how you can do it. So all I do is I turn it, bring it here, and then I usually just kind of connect these dots. Oops. Just like this, and make it nice and snug. Bring it back. Nice and snug. So I mentioned someone really good is going to make them the same length, the same width. I am not looking for this to be perfect. What I'm looking for you to be able to do is hide your knot in between the two layers and successfully do a wrap stitch. That's why I call this the wrap stitch, because you're wrapping around the edge. Do a wrap stitch repeatedly around. Do your best to turn the corner, Go all the way to the end. But lastly, I need to show you how to tie a knot now. This is going to be fun. So we make our wrap stitch, and before we pull it all the way nice and tight, what you can do when it's loose, you can put your finger here, and then all you need to do, you can make think about making an X to stop or something. You're gonna go once, twice, and then pull it tight. You can do that, and then all you have left to do is just trim this down. Tie a knot in it. Trim it one last time. And you would be done. Now let's say you start running out of thread and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to stop what I'm doing and then I need to cut this and start again. To do that, I like to pick up where I left off. So I poke through one layer, the back, hide my knot in there, just tuck it down in there, close it up, bring my thread in front. I just call this like an anchor stitch. So I'm laying my anchor down and then I just bring it back in front again. And I just pick up where I left off and I just keep going. So you'll keep going all the way around. Do your best to make these as even as possible, the width and the length. But like these ones right here, it doesn't need to be perfect. If you start getting X's, like if you start getting something like this, an easy fix is to make sure your thread is in front of you, to the side, away from the direction you're going. So I'm going to the right, so I'm going to make sure my thread is in front of me, but off to the left, poke off to the right. And you'll see it'll correct itself right there. And that's how you're going to do the wrap stitch.